If you are listening to this, maybe your heart has been carrying a weight for a long time. Maybe you grew up without the warmth you needed. Maybe your family feels distant, or cold, or broken. Or maybe you've spent years wondering why love was harder for you to receive than it should have been. Tonight, this story is for you. A story not just to tell, but to heal. A story to remind you that even if you never received the softness you deserved, you can still build your own warmth, step by gentle step. Take a slow breath, let your shoulders relax, and allow your heart to rest for a while. This is the story of Ari, and the home he learned to build inside himself. Ari grew up in a house that was always quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the type that feels heavy, like an untouched room filled with dust. His parents rarely spoke to each other. When they did, their voices were sharp, short, tired. No good nights, no proud of you, no soft laughter echoing through the walls. Ari learned early that some families hug, and some simply coexist under the same roof. But still, he waited for someone to notice his small successes, waited for a warm hand on his shoulder, waited for love to become something he could feel rather than imagine. And every night before he slept, he wondered if he was difficult to love, or just easy to forget. As Ari grew older, the silence of his home followed him. He became good at pretending. He smiled when expected. He helped everyone with their problems, hoping someone would eventually ask about his. He listened to friends talk about family dinners, about mothers who called to check if they had eaten, about fathers who encouraged their dreams. Ari would simply nod, carrying a tiny storm inside his chest that no one ever noticed. People often asked him why he was so gentle, so patient, so good at comforting others. Ari never told them the truth. He learned to give what he never received. One evening, after a particularly rough day, Ari walked to a small cafe near his place. The cafe was tiny, warm, filled with soft yellow light, and behind the counter was an elderly woman named May, a woman who seemed to carry the scent of kindness with her. She saw him often and always gave him a gentle smile, the kind that reaches the eyes. May noticed the way Ari's shoulders always drooped, the way his voice was polite but tired, the way he looked around as if searching for something he couldn't name. "Rough day?" she asked softly. Ari wanted to say no, wanted to hide behind the usual mask. But for once, for the first time, someone asked in a way that felt real. He nodded. May placed a warm cup of tea in front of him. "On the house," she said, "no one should carry their troubles alone." Ari felt something melt inside him, a warmth so unfamiliar that it almost hurt. This was the moment, the first crack of light slipped into his life. Over time, Ari began visiting the cafe more often. May never pried, never asked for details. She simply talked to him like someone who mattered, someone worth noticing. One day, she told him, "Not everyone grows up learning how to receive love. Some of us learn it much later, and that's okay." Ari froze. It was the first time someone put into words the thing he never admitted, the thing he thought was his fault. May continued, "Some families don't know how to love properly, not because you're unworthy, but because they never learned it themselves." Ari felt his throat tighten. Because for the first time in his life, someone wasn't blaming him for what he lacked. One night, Ari returned home after the cafe had closed. He sat in his room and stared at the ceiling. He realized he had been carrying his family's silence, their absence, their coldness, as if it were his responsibility. He whispered into the empty room, "It wasn't my fault." It was shaky at first, like learning to walk again, but it was true. Children should never be forced to earn love. And slowly, Ari started to understand. Some people grow up learning survival, not affection. Some homes are houses, not havens. And some hearts, like his, become soft because they know the feeling of being hurt by hardness. Ari didn't heal overnight. Healing was not a sudden transformation. It was a slow collection of tiny moments. Buying himself his first birthday cake, letting himself rest without guilt, saying no without fear, learning that loneliness doesn't mean he is unlovable, accepting that family can be more than blood. He started keeping a small notebook, writing down things he wished someone would tell him. You are trying, and that's enough. You deserve gentleness. Your worth is not measured by others' ability to love you. Over time, these sentences became tiny lanterns, illuminating the dark corners of his heart. May became like the grandmother he never had. The cafe became a safe place, a reminder that warmth can be found in imperfect places. Ari eventually met new friends, people who laughed freely, who listened without judgment, who offered the kind of love that felt like sunlight. He realized something important. Family is not always the one you're born into. Sometimes it is the one you create. One kind person at a time. Years later, Ari stood in front of a mirror. He looked into his own eyes and whispered, "You made it. You're still here. You're learning to love. You're learning to heal." He understood then that home was never a place. It was never the house he grew up in. It was never the people who failed to love him. Home was something he carried inside. In his gentleness, in his resilience, in the warmth he learned to give himself. And he realized something powerful. Just because your family didn't show you love doesn't mean you are incapable of receiving it. And it definitely doesn't mean you are incapable of giving it. You are not broken. You are becoming. If you're listening to this story right now, maybe you feel like Ari. Maybe you grew up in a house filled with silence instead of comfort. Maybe you're still trying to understand your worth. So here is something for you to take with you. You deserve love that doesn't make you question yourself. You deserve warmth that doesn't disappear. You deserve care that is consistent, gentle, and real. You can heal, you can grow, you can build the home you never had inside yourself and around yourself. And even if it takes time, you are allowed to take all the time you need. Tonight, may your heart rest softly. May the heaviness loosen. May you remember, you are not alone. You matter. And you are worthy of love always.